GM, happy Wednesday morning. Thank you all so much for coming in. Best Ball on Call says wake up. And indeed, thank you so much for coming by. Fantasy Sanctuary, thank you. And Fantasy Sports Bonanza CLN 2013. These three channels, all of you are out there grinding in the content street. So if anyone does not subscribe to Best Ball on Call, Fantasy Sanctuary, and CLN 2013's new channel, I highly recommend you do. But everyone, thank you so much for coming by. Last night, I had the pleasure of coming on PPR Tyler's Best Ball Barbecue, and that was so much fun. We did a BBM. I think our team came out pretty good. Definitely was so much fun, and really appreciate him having me on yesterday. And after I dropped off, he ran a Superflex contest. And so if you're looking how to build for Superflex, which is something that I really don't do a ton of, I would, you can skip my part. That's fine. But definitely watch the end of the last half of the episode where he streams a Superflex contest, because he gives some really good alpha. And I watched it and I learned a lot myself. So definitely head on over there if you weren't able to catch it last night. But I'm going to try to rip a Schnauzer, because the lobby doesn't have a ton of just regular contests. Now this is waiting for 7. Let me see if I can do waiting for 6. I wanted to do a 30 seconds. So I'm going to hop out of this and see if I can't see where the 30-second is at for the Schnauzer. I only have 2 left. I want to save my pugs, honestly, for late nights, Friday, Saturday, where I think the rooms are going to be a little softer. No offense to you all, but for the 3 max, I don't think I want to use my pug bullets, because I think the rooms do tend to be a little sharper in the mornings. The stream drafts definitely sharper, and I think there's enough other stuff to where we can have some fun watching some of these other drafts, and I will save my pugs, but I'm very glad that those are in the lobby. All right, so I'm going to hop in this 20-second Schnauzer and see if we can't fill it. And we are waiting for 6. All right, so I might hang out here in a minute. If this starts going too slow, I can see how we do with a BBM or eliminator. I'm also happy to do a Superflex draft, but I would kind of be learning along with many of you, because that's just not a format that I do a ton of. My crash course yesterday from being on with PPR Tyler and having Steve Shope from over on Fanspeak was basically, don't take a wide receiver with your first 5 picks. You load up on quarterback and running back. You can still build some really strong QB wide receiver stacks, but in that format, you only have to start 2 receivers. It's not like the other draft formats where you have to start at least 3. So when you only have to start 2, you're not as worried about wide receiver depth. Running back depth really can go off a cliff. So it does seem like the path to success there is getting a little less attached to the early wide receivers like we do in our BBMs and whatnot. Skeletor GM, we are in a 20-second Schnauzer. 20-second Schnauzer. I only have 2 left of these. So yeah, GM, yeah. Feel free if you have any Schnauzer bullets left, feel free to hop in. My hunch is most people who have maxed or who did max the puppy are out of Schnauzer bullets. I know there was some controversy, or not controversy, but someone was tweeting that Underdog needs to always have a low dollar contest in the lobby, and Numi helpfully reminded this person of the myriad of contests that are available to people that are open. But I still have a couple of these bullets left. Bindles GM. This is a 20-second Schnauzer. If you are interested, Skeletor 20 Schnauzers, but only drafting BBM. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. If you're, I think that's a smart thing to do, is just be deliberate with your context selection. If you've identified BBM as what you want to max, then you could end up wasting time and bankroll in contests you're less interested in. So certainly appreciate that. A Caps attack from CLN 2013. Yeah. Oh, Pete's reply to that person was pretty funny. You saw them someone was chirping at Pete on there, and then the best part of that was someone saying that, you know, Ray Zanny was right about his first impression of Pete, because his person was calling Pete a sellout. It was totally funny because Pete's like just pointing out the obvious, like there's a lot of contests there, and this person just decided that today they were going to choose violence on Twitter. Yeah, Skeletor, 6 more subs to 100. My God, I thought I was at 92. So if I got 2 more, that is awesome. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Yeah, PPR Tyler last night was huge in getting me some more subs. Really, again, appreciate him having me on, and yeah, got the 101. So this is exciting stuff. I will probably just rip in Jamar Chase, but it looks like we got CLN 2013 in here. If anyone else is in here, let me know, but does not look like it. Yeah, so not a whole lot in the way of training camp news. We're now in a little bit of silly season where we're starting to read into, you know, Steph Diggs on a yacht, you know, minor injuries to Jalen Coker, Jalen Naylor looking like he gained, you know, 50 pounds. I'm not sure. But now we have a lot of tea leaves we can read into that may not actually be actionable, but gives us something to do. Is that a Kimbo Slice shirt in the thumbnail? Yes, it is my my Kimbo 305 shirt. I grew up in Miami, so I and during my formative years was the sort of apex of Kimbo Slice. Love the guy. R.I.P. Man, he was just an amazing story. If you haven't ever, you know, heard about Kimbo, it's a true kind of rags to riches tale. I mean, it's kind of sad. It's just a very human story. So yeah, R.I.P. legend. But I always loved Kimbo. I do watch UFC. Actually, UFC MMA is one of my favorite forms of DFS. I used to be able to follow it a little more closely than I do now. I kind of like I listen to Bookie Beatdown podcast with Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Safdie. I love their content. Mayo Media Network also does a Dog or Pass podcast, which just got a couple of new hosts when Paul and Cody left. So if you're trying to get into the UFC, you know, they're more focused on betting, but it does, if you listen, you know, and know what you're doing in DFS, translate. Yeah, I do like UFC. So let's see. I'll pull up the draft board. It looks like CLN got Amon-Ra at 9. Nothing too out of the ordinary so far. All right. Yep. Derrick Henry going at 10. I feel like he's a guy I don't see very frequently in the first round, but you know, it's certainly defensible. And he's a guy that I think my exposure on is a little too low. Streaming with PPR Tyler, I did find it, you know, watching him use the overlay, it is helpful to see your exposures in the playoff matchups, and I really need to get in on that. If nothing else, then to just like make sure I'm not getting too over or under on people. I do think Derrick Henry's a guy I do not want to be at market. I'm happy getting to about 4 to 6% of his just another full season of him. At worst, though, he's the goal line back in Baltimore, which is going to be a very valuable role. But you know, his touch count was declining last year. I mean, he was sub 60%, but just would just get there ultimately with like late game volume. It seemed like he would just, you know, if you play DFS, he would be like, okay, we're safe from Derrick Henry. It's, you know, the middle of the fourth quarter and he has like 32 yards on 16 carries. And then you'd be like, all of a sudden you'd go from cashing to not. And it's like, oh, Derrick Henry broke off a 65-yard touchdown. Cool. So he would, you know, he is the classic, like, grind down the opponent kind of back. But again, just another year of wear and tear. It's just hard for me to trust him over, you know, your Gene T, CMC, even Jonathan Taylor. I think in a vacuum, I almost prefer Taylor to Henry, but again, he's not a guy I want to do a full fade on, but I am slightly out on him there. Picks 1 through 3 feel gross when you start RB. The 3v3 turn when you start at wide receiver on those picks feels better when you pick at the 2-3 turn. Yeah. When you start Saquon here, you often get like, do you want to go Bucky or Taylor, and then you're starting with 2 running backs, and it kind of depends what comes to you in this 4-5 range if you feel good about that. I think that is why it's very tempting if you don't get the 101 and take Chase to take Jefferson, because it does feel like building out the rest of your team is a little bit easier. But with that said, like, I do not want to end up underweight on Saquon, Bijan, and Gibbs. Like there's just a reasonable chance that they're, who you need this season. Garrett Wilson is one of my favorite clicks here. I'm happy to just go Wilson MHJ. I get my week 17 stack with Marvin Harrison. I could do Josh Jacobs. I'm a little lukewarm on Jacobs. I think if this were BBM, then maybe I would take Jacobs just more for exposure, that being a 150 max. I don't necessarily want to be light on Jacobs, but again, he's not a click I'm super happy to make. But in this, 20 max contest where I feel like it's a little more of like, I'm going to get my guys, I'd rather just build a team I'm a little more excited to draft than just like eating my vegetables. Al Boogie, GM. Thank you for coming by. Kevin says, Ola, figured I'd drop in on this clown show for a bit. I appreciate that you took the time to capitalize clown show. Like, there are many clown shows, but this is the clown show. So I appreciate that that note there, Kevin. Thank you for coming by. Hopefully we can build a team to your satisfaction. I know you like to draft a ton of wide receivers, and I started with 3 in a row, not even knowing you were here. So consider this an homage to you. GM Drafters from Todd Hargreaves. Todd, thank you so much for coming by. GM to you as well. Yeah, thanks, thanks, Al Boogie. Yeah, I hope that this show, in the morning, whether you're commuting to work, you're at the house, you're at the gym, whatever you're doing, I hope this is enjoyable for people. I do love streaming in the mornings and hanging out with this kind of morning crew. It was completely different streaming in the evening. My lighting was all different. I was all out of sorts at the beginning, but you guys, you all are my people in this early AM hour. Al Boogie, this is a 20-second schnauzer. I had 2 schnauzer bullets left, so we'll see. I'll rip at least one more after this. I think my preference would be to do either a sprint or an eliminator. My only issue with sprint is I don't have rankings in, and the ADPs are a little squirrely. So I feel like it's a little easier to make mistakes in that when you don't have that set up. But it is a contest that I think I might end up maxing this year. I do love that it eliminates the sort of pod luck angle of the late season stuff. Not that I'm not complaining about pod luck, but it is nice to have a format where you don't have that situation where you have an absolute monster and you just run into like a slightly bigger monster and you're dead. So it does give you that, it's just a different format and one that I do think rewards good drafting. And it is something I want to get more into. The eliminator is more, to me, just kind of fun. I mean, it is basically martingaling coin flips, and it's definitely where one eliminates pod luck, that puts pod luck to like the most extreme example. So Who Hames, sup fam, GM Who Hames, thank you so much for coming by. Thanks to everyone who hung out last night as well. Who Hames and Al Boogie, I saw you all there last night, so that was such a fun stream and a fun hang with you all. So the elite quarterbacks have gone. We had Allen at 36, Lamar 38, and then Hurts and Daniels back to back. Hurts going to the A.J. Brown drafter. That is a nice fall on A.J. Brown that Mitch there got. So let's see what we have here. I'm really in on a JMO. If I could get Jameson Williams, I would probably take him, but unfortunately, I do not. I'm going to take Omari and Hampton and George Kittle here. Like Hampton quite a bit. Happy to start my running back room with him, but I think Kittle to me is a pretty big tier break in tight end. When I'm on the turn, you get a little less flexibility. You kind of got to take what comes to you. And so if I could have the choice of ending this team with one tight end or two tight ends, I'd rather that than feel like I have to take three, and that might cause me to pass up on someone I like more. So I don't mind getting Kittle there. So going over the team, we started with Chase, MHJ, and Garrett Wilson, and then follow that up with Omari and Hampton and George Kittle. Doesn't look like anyone has any truly strange builds. Mike Sturr does go triple running back with DK Metcalf as his WR1. But yeah, nothing too out of the ordinary. The McLaurin drafter did pass on Daniels, but that's understandable when they took the tight end detour. All right. Had to pause for 3 minutes, 3 wide start. Yeah, this is growth. Good. Well, Kevin, I mean, I like I said, this was my homage to you here without even knowing you were in the stream, winning 16 head-to-heads in a row. Yeah, easy. Yeah, it is just like, it is one of those things where I forget the exact numbers, but something like by week 6, what is it? Like 98% of the contest is eliminated. Something crazy. Like the eliminations happen so much faster than you realize. So it's like you could really 150 max and have nobody left by week 7 or 8, and you're gonna feel like you failed, but like you didn't. It's just like math. Like you're just, the mathematical chance of making it to those late weeks are just so slim. And so it is fun. It does bring a monster element of luck in, but honestly, like, I could stream chess instead and not just be a pure skill game, but I would, I don't think I would get anybody to watch me do that. Just draft good players. Skeletor, that's all you got to do. I think we overcomplicate this game. Just draft good players. Hames, this is a 20-second schnauzer. With 150, you aren't expected to advance to week 10, I believe. Yeah. I actually thought it was earlier than week 10, but that sounds right. Hames, I will trust your math more than my recollection of somebody else's math there. But yeah, it is. It's crazy how you would think after 16 weeks with how big that contest is, there'd be more than 3 teams left, but that's just how it goes down. Just half the field is eliminated every week, and it is pretty fun. I did the math, but woke up 8 minutes ago. Well, Ames, good morning. Oh, good morning. Thanks so much for waking up with all of us here. So let's see. Laporta goes at 66, but not to the Amon-Ra drafter. So the Lions have been scattered to the wind. Sometimes you see one person collecting Lions. We don't really have that here. Let's see what comes to us. I could pick up one of those aforementioned Lions if I wanted David Montgomery, but I do not get that choice. I think with Kittle, I might take Pearsall, build a little bit of a room of Niners. And then after that, it is going to be the choice of running back. I don't take a lot of Judkins, but I feel like I should. I don't want to end up with none of this guy. It's a little bit of an ambiguous backfield, which is nerve-wracking. I mean, Sampson was a guy that we were pretty high on in the draft, or some people were. Didn't quite get the capital we thought. And then, of course, they have Jerome Ford, who took a pay cut to stay in Cleveland. And you could read into that whatever you want. Did he take a pay cut because he wants to play and they promised him playing time? Did he take a pay cut because otherwise he was going to get cut and wash up in a be the RB3 in some other team and, have to move his whole family. Like we don't really know exactly how this backfield's going to shake out, but Cleveland does seem like a team that is going to want to be pretty run heavy if they, if they had their way. So he could be a pretty high volume guy. And, Cleveland's a tough team. But again, Judkin's pretty good prospect, someone that we were all excited about coming into the draft. I will make sure to not end up with none of him. I also take an absolute ton of Tony Pollard and don't really want to end up with 25-30% of Pollard just because I'm making comfy clicks. Speaking of comfy clicks, the exact opposite, DeAndre Swift all the way up at 78. He has been a guy who has steadily risen since the contest open. We all, I think on day one, people were like logging in, hoping to jam RJ Harvey before he rose. DeAndre Swift was one of those kind of ancillary pieces of people we knew were going to rise throughout the summer. And we're definitely starting to see that now. If they bring in one of the free agents, if they trade for a back, then we could see, depending on who that is, a pretty, gosh, I almost said Swift fall, a pretty rapid fall for DeAndre Swift there. But as it stands, he's another guy that I just do not want to be out on. If the season starts and it is Swift and Roschon, it's going to look pretty bad if you have no DeAndre Swift in an offense that we are excited about. Mikester there. So kind of ignored in all this was Joe Burrow didn't even make it close to getting to the Higgins drafter or myself. He got snapped off. Not even, so this is how we know Mikester knows what he's doing. So we've got these two with Allen and Lamar, and then Mikester takes unstacked Joe Burrow, but not even around the turn. He takes him in the 5th instead of the 6th. And then here goes double tight end. I'm not saying the double tight end thing is bad, but I do think if you're going to take unstacked Burrow and you're in this spot, at least wait till around the turn, because these guys were not going to take him. So coming up on me, let's see, our QB options. Purdy goes at 108. So I would be taking him ahead of ADP. Otherwise, I would have to hope he falls to 120, which is a little dicey. The Ayuk drafter does not have a quarterback. What are my other options? I just saw Kyler went, which is unfortunate. This will probably be a Justin Fields selection because then I can pair Garrett Wilson there. And so I think for this team, this is going to be Jordan Mason and Justin Fields. Mason, I like adding Mason, who I think is going to at the very least have the goal line role or some form of short yardage role in Minnesota. Adding that to a room where, Hampton could be a slow starter. Judkins as a rookie could be a slow starter, and we don't really know his role. Mason, I think he has a pretty good role and contingent upside. So I think he makes sense to add to the team. If I can get Brock Purdy swinging around the turn, that would be nice. I'm not going to count on that though, because he's a pretty popular quarterback for people to take. And there's a few different Niner options. The CMC drafter occasionally will take him. And of course, I think Chris Hall with Ayuk, his QB options are pretty limited, although he might get Bo Nix here. So if he takes Nix, then maybe we can get Purdy, but a Nix Purdy pick for him, I think makes sense. I guess he could also take Goff because he has Laporta. So we will see. I'm not going to draft this entire draft for Chris Hall. You guys don't care what Chris Hall's doing. Candled. Hate to see it. Yes, he did get candled there. Hartman, GM Hartman, thank you for coming by. Hartman is out there in the content streets as well. If you don't sub to Hartman, I would recommend you do so. Hartman, again, really appreciate you hanging with us today. So 120 and 121, if we look at what's usually around there, it's sort of last chance saloon for the running backs before they really go off a cliff. So after you get to Hollywood Brown at 129, the next receiver by ADP is at is QJ at 146. I don't even consider him draftable personally. If you know, I'm trying to be pretty even with my exposures, but I think QJ is a good chance he's heading to 0. So then the next reasonable option is, I'm like clowning on QJ, and I'm like, well, but Josh Palmer, you could take him. Don't love taking Josh Palmer, but he's Buffalo paid him like they're going to play him. He's not a guy that I want to be completely out on. I was drafting him in the hundreds last year, thinking he was the Chargers wide receiver 1 that failed miserably. Maybe a change of scenery helps. Certainly a wide receiver room where there are going to be targets up for grabs, and you never know. Players do make improvements. Situations change, so we'll see. So Chris Hall does not take a again. This is the Chris Hall draft, guys. He does not take a quarterback yet. Kind of strange to see him completely passing there when he had some good options. We'll see. Mooseman and Brazen don't have QBs, but of course Brock Purdy goes to the Jennings drafter. Okay. Yeah, I can't fault him for that. So yeah, Jennings is another piece. We had Jennings, Ayuk, Pearsall, and Kittle all going in the first, 8 rounds. There's a lot of competition for Purdy. He's, he is a guy that just is taken more often than not. What I'm trying to say is he doesn't really fall too frequently. What that puts us in is a position of what will our QB2 be right now with only 4 receivers. I definitely need a receiver in this range. Tootin is tempting. If I sort by ADP, I don't really have a reason to take Goff. I think with Tootin going, I'm going to just build this Drake May, Kyle Williams instant, just add water and you have a stack. Kyle Williams has risen. He was around 129, but he's being pushed up. So again, Drake May, really like Drake May. The leg up people love Drake May. So, if leg up guys, if you're and Steph, if you're watching, you're I am heeding your advice, but I do like Drake May. Seems like New England's going to be more competitive this season, and and adding getting that little stack there, I think is something nice. It makes Hunter Henry a viable late round tight end for us rather than just taking a one-off. So potentially we could end this team with something like Mason Taylor and Hunter Henry, or just maybe one of them because we have Kittle. I guess it'll just depend what is going on. All right. GM breakfast with Chad becoming a thing. Yes, JT Best Ball also out there in the content and in the content streets. If you don't subscribe to JT, Mr. Thibodeau, he is out there as well. And I really appreciate you coming by. Skeletor is excited. Drake May, Kyle Williams stack. Yeah, it could be what you need. I wish I was more woke to Kyle Williams in the pre-draft stuff. I saw a lot of Xavier Legette in my amateur analysis. The 5th year breakout is always scary because you have a grown man competing against, like future, car salesmen and, bank tellers. Oh, my light just went out. Cool. And so it is hard to tell. Like, there's a huge difference between like a 23-year-old and, like your freshman playing free safety. Like, it's the 5th year breakout can be a little concerning. And I think that's what we saw with Kyle Williams, but obviously New England liked him. There's a possibility that Steph Diggs comes, is not ready week 1. So we could see Kyle Williams out there a little earlier. It's a crowded wide receiver room in that there's just like a lot of dudes there, but Williams certainly has the potential to separate himself. So in post-draft stuff, I have been kind of just trying to take him at market, maybe even above market, because it's sort of like him and Betch are the end of that tier. But Betch, all the way up at 111. Again, he goes to Mikester, who now takes his 3rd tight end here. Mikester's draft. He's just out there vibing, taking players he likes, and you love to see that. It's also a schnauzer, so you can just take you can take the guys you likes. Ant X, is that Wall or WAII? Apologies. New England likes anybody. Yeah, if you have a pulse, I mean, they were throwing, deep shots to Keishon Butte last year. So it's pretty grim over there. Got 20th round shares in the big board before Chris Sims had him as his wide receiver too. Yeah. Yeah, Chris Sims certainly kind of rang the alarm bells that we should be drafting Kyle Williams. And I said, oh, that crazy Chris Sims, what does he know? Turns out a lot. And I should listen to people that do this seriously. We could see Polk and Baker as second-year breakouts. Many people are saying. I think you are many people. I don't know if there's anybody else saying that. Jalen Polk, my God, that was a that was unfortunate. How much of him we were taking last season. I'm going to take Ray Davis here. And you know what? I'll do the aforementioned Josh Palmer on this team. I don't think there's I'll just take Ray Davis now. Add a couple of Buffalo Bills. Bills play New England in week 16, I believe. So get a little bit of playoff correlation there. New England, let's see, I have the schedule on it. Yeah. So New England plays Buffalo and the Jets. So we've sort of backed our way into a couple of different playoff permutations. Now, the true best ball intelligentsia will tell you that it is bad to have your two quarterbacks playing each other in week 17. And my response to that is if I get a team to week 17, I am just thrilled to be in the finals, and I do not care. And if I did not have that combination, I probably wouldn't be in the finals to begin with. So I am not going to stress out about that. I think that can lead you away from otherwise well-constructed teams. But if you really want to be game theory optimal, I believe you do want to avoid the week 17 QB battle. That's bait. Kevin Polk is dead to me. Yeah. The Jalen Polk experience was regrettable. Yeah, I mean, you never know. Players could improve, but it's it's looking pretty grim there. You know what? I realized I am going to get the ducks going. It's going to garble the audio for a second, but do not panic. All right. Please let me know if that is too loud. I just turned it down a hair. So let's see. Are there any late QB options that we like? QBs remaining. So there's always the truly late backdoor, Stafford and Atwell, Cam Ward and Chig and Iomena or Restrepo or Lockett, Geno Smith and Trey Tucker or Thornton. Pretty grim. This might end up just being a QB team. I think this might be one where if I took a third QB, it would really be forcing it just to force it. I don't have any kind of natural stacks that make sense at this time. Maybe if we get a big faller, I will consider taking it. I like to build 3 QB more than 2 QB in this format, but again, I'm trying to do different builds and roster constructions and not do the same thing every time. I don't want like a 3-5-7-3 every single time or a 3-6-7-2 because we just don't know what's going to work this year. And I'm making a pretty big bet on Fields and May here. And so again, you want to draft like you're right. I don't want to shoehorn in somebody that's not going to actually add anything to the team. But that said, someone like Cam Ward unstacked or just like very late stacked is not going to be terrible because he does have that rushing upside. And Cam Ward could be a guy who, as the season comes on, improves later and later. But CLN 2013 takes him. Let's see. Do you have? I meant to pull up the board. Let's see. CLN takes him. So he takes him he's got Tajay Spears. So, I guess a mini running back receiver stack for CLN 2013. And then the aforementioned Matt Stafford goes to the Puka drafter. So, quarterbacks here finding good homes. You do love to see that. Music may be a little loud compared to voice audio. Okay, I can turn it down. I can turn it down a little more. Thielen wanted Penix. Let's see. Penix went at 151, and he went to somebody with no Falcons. You hate to see it. All right, I am up. Jalen Knoll. All right, so I'm going to take Hunter Henry is going to be one of my picks here. So I could take one more. I could take like just the ADP value on Knoll. I could also take Roschon, who I like quite a bit. I did mention that about Chicago. I think I'm going to take Roschon here. I'm pretty in on the idea of having one of the Chicago backs on most of my teams if I can make that happen. I guess that would be really high exposure, but we will we'll take some Roschon there. Put some respect on Darnold, Rodgers, Show, and Wilson. Oh my heavens. Well, Darnold, I do occasionally take Darnold, but I'm starting to think more and more there's a chance that Milroe really does take over late in the season and that Darnold is truly just a bridge. I guess it's going to depend a lot on the state of the Seahawks. I mean, we did see last year, I would not have thought Penix would have played. And I thought that Cousins was a little more competent than Darnold. You know, the Falcons were in the middle of a playoff hunt and they benched Cousins to go to Penix. Now, I don't think, comparing Milroe to Penix is fair. Milroe is not, not the NFL prospect that Penix was, but apparently Milroe is looking good in this early stuff. Again, it's like, reading into these rookie mini camps and stuff is always tough, but he is getting some good buzz that he's impressing the coaches there. But it is hard to think that Seattle views Darnold as any kind of long-term solution. As far as, Rodgers, you're probably right. It's just, I wonder where he's going to get drafted when he does sign. I guess my guess is he'd go in that like 160 and beyond range where he's in the 14th, 15th round. So maybe he's a guy that we should be taking more. He just really wasn't that good last season until like the very, very end. And they were playing some kind of weird games there. Show, I don't know when Show's going to start again. Like early word is like Rattler doesn't look that terrible. So that could be more of like, I don't know. I think Show will probably win the job, but Rattler stepped into such a bad situation last year. It is really hard to judge him. I mean, obviously he looked pretty darn inept, but how much of that was the team had completely imploded. They couldn't move. I don't know if anybody could have moved the ball in that offense. So I think they are willing to give Rattler another shot. And it's unclear how great Show is to begin with. Penix was a top 10 draft pick. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's the exact analogy, but I'm saying I'm saying it more in that teams are willing to give the young guy a shot, even if the team is competitive with like a veteran quarterback that they don't view in the long term. Milroe is the new Taysom Hill utility guy. Well, if they give Milroe tight end eligibility, I'm taking him in every draft. Like, no question about that. So I did miss on Mason Taylor. I do want to. Oh no, there he goes. I have not been able to read what they've said about. I've not been able to read what they said about Jalen Coker. So I'm going to take Keenan Allen with the assumption that he does actually sign somewhere, and that'll round out the wide receiver room here. And then at running back, none of these guys are really that exciting. I might just take my God, Juwan Johnson if I can get. I'm going to take Juwan Johnson as a third tight end, and then I'm going to end this team with one of these, late round running backs. So we'll end the team with Justin Fields, Drake May at QB, Omarion Hampton, Judkins, Mason, Ray Davis, and Roschon at running back. Wide receiver room of Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Kyle Williams, and then Josh Palmer and Keenan Allen, and a tight end room of Kittle, Henry, and Juwan Johnson. I had 2 week 14 tight ends. I did not realize that Henry and Kittle had the same bye before I took Henry. And so I had to add a third tight end there. Real quick, going over CLN's team. CLN with Amon-Ra, Drake London, and Mike Evans. And then added Breece Hall, Jalen Waddle, Travion Henderson, Khalil Shakir, Baker Mayfield, Trey Harris, Najee, Njoku, Spears, McMillan, Ward, Alec Pierce, and DJ Giddens. So pretty strong team there from CLN. All guys I like. I like this sort of late late Colts. Pierce and Giddens are 2 guys I like to add in late. And with our last pick, we're going to just take our favorite running back there. Milroe will start at some point. That's a stand I am willing to take. Yeah, again, I have certainly come around to that as a strong possibility. But again, we could be eating a zero. Eating a zero at quarterback in 18 round drafts is not great. Definitely somebody that I like a little more in these time box contests than taking in BBM, because I think we might get a little bit better of a sense if Milroe, has a chance to start this year. I think we'll be able to kind of pick up where Darnold's at, how close of a battle is that, a little more word on how Milroe is coming along. And I don't think if Milroe is the backup, he's going to be drafted 100% of the time in draft. So you'll still be able to get him in the 17th, 18th round anyway, and not risk that you're, completely punting off a position. I think Milroe is this year's Hendon Hooker, just a dart throw for someone trying to force uniqueness, but really a zero. Yeah. And again, that's not an unreasonable take. And I think a lot of people have that opinion, which is why, in like BBMs, he's a guy that, unless I have some particular reason for, I'm just going to hold off until we get a little more. I'm also saving some of my BBM bullets for later in the season, just for that very reason, to kind of avoid drafting some of those clear zeros. Don't really have any bye week issues at running back. Kind of trying to sprinkle different players. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is a guy I've heard a little bit about this offseason. I think, I don't know how much they really love B-Rob, but they didn't take anybody with significant draft capital. Taj Brooks, Woody Marks, Jordan James, other contenders and guys I take in the last round. But I'll take some Krosky-Merritt and swing a little for the fences here. So that'll wrap up that draft. And Emo Cowboy, thank you for stopping by. Really appreciate you coming in this morning. Your fans are legion, and they are here in chat. So let's see what else we can fire up. You know what? Let's see if we can try a 30-second BBM. I'm gonna hop in this, and if it's nowhere near filling, I'm gonna hop out and see what we can see. So waiting for 11. I am not going to wait for that because we will be here until next Thursday. So let's see what else we can do. I'll try to do a 30-second schnauzer. Again, this is unlikely to be able to fire off. Waiting for 10. Okay, that's not going to fill either. All right, I'm going to try my final schnauzer. Let's see if we can get a 20-second schnauzer. I don't really want to do a 20-second BBM just because it's hard to stream and not draft like a complete fool in a 20-second BBM. All right, waiting for 4. So we'll fire this one. This will be the last schnauzer. And anyone who wants to hop in, please do. Milroe lets you draft in a way that most picks this late can't provide. That's his true value. Yeah, certainly. He's a little bit of that like Justin Fields kind of mega upside quarterback that can win you contests. Excuse me. And there's some historical precedent to that, but again, I don't think there's a realistic chance he starts the year. And if he's only the backup, then again, I don't think he's going to move, super high up, because people just don't don't like to spend, draft capital above the 16th round on a backup quarterback. And there's a chance that Milroe is kind of like Trey Lancey. Like we love the rushing upside that Trey Lance provided, and he was so awful that couldn't even that didn't even matter. Like it didn't show out in a lot of the games that he came in. So, DTR pretty good as a rusher, but pretty bad as a fantasy player. Had a couple serviceable games, but again, just wasn't able to showcase that, even though he did like to take off and run. It just, if your passing is so bad that it's not a threat, then you're not going to be able to showcase that rushing upside. Kubiak is going to use both QBs, but Darnold is the starter full season. It's possible. Again, it's possible. Milroe lets you dream. Yep. I suppose, again, I forget who said it. I know it was in one of Davis's streams, and the big board is like the lies you tell yourself. And so maybe we can be a little more positive, and these are the dreams, these are the dreams that we can have of a better world where Milroe is a good quarterback, and he's Justin Fields 100 picks later in the draft. And that's a beautiful thing. So looking at what we've got, I don't know if anybody got in this one with me. That is okay. I feel like B Miller 813 is familiar, but I don't know if they are in here. You can't provide the rushing upside if you don't play the games. Yes, until we get fantasy second team, then we might be in a little bit of trouble. I'm going to take Justin Jefferson here, and because again, as we talked, it is nice to be able to start your lineup on the side of the board with a receiver. And I think I've gotten pretty unlucky with my Justin Jefferson. Let me look at my exposures. I take him every time he's at the top of ADP. Let me see if I go to here, NFL season, 179 drafts. Again, I never pass on Jefferson. Where is he? Yeah, I have 5.7% Jefferson, and I take him every time. I keep getting the back end of the board. I don't know what it is. If I look at my Jamar Chase, I have my expected 8%. If I have Saquon, 6.3%, I take him at ADP. Bijan at 9.1. So I've just gotten pretty bad luck as far as having the first four or five picks. I have let's see, where's CD Lamb? 7%. I'm just not getting, I don't know why the RNG just has not given me early picks. So I did want to take some Justin Jefferson here because I'm, frankly, a little light on him. I have a ton of slow drafts going. A little bit of a programming note. Next week, I am going to be traveling, and I don't know if I'm going to be somewhere where I can draft new contests. So I might stream to where we're going over some slow drafts. I don't know if people would be interested in that content. It might just be the best I can do. But, if I do that, then we can kind of go over each, talk about each pick, kind of, think about, because a lot of people do slow drafts, but there's not a lot of slow draft content. So, discussing the different pockets of players, planning your builds in advance and looking at that, because it's very tempting to just make slow drafts like fast drafts, in that you open your phone or your app or whatever, and, you look at your team and you try to build a stack, but you don't really take advantage of the fact that you have hours to plan. And obviously I'm not expecting people to take hours and hours on these contests, but taking a little extra time to kind of plan ahead your builds and just see if we can if we can do that. If people find that at all useful, it might be something that I'm going to try to do if I can't fire up new drafts. All right. That's cool. You can upload ranks on Underdogs. I usually do my drafts on the phone. I got to say, it is easy to upload rankings on a laptop. Yes. So you basically just click over to your rankings tab and find find the contest. Just remember, if you're you have to have different rankings for Eliminator, Marathon, Weekly winners because they use different player IDs, but just make sure you're on the right tab and upload it. It's very hard to do on your phone. What you have to do is you can't do it on the app. You have to do it in like a browser. And if you do it in a browser, you have to click request mobile site, and you have to go directly to underdogfantasy.com/rankings. If you just go to underdogfantasy.com, even if you click request desktop site, not mobile, it will tell you mobile coming soon. So you have to go underdogfantasy.com/rankings, be on request desktop site, and then you could upload it on your phone. Otherwise, you can't do it in the app, and you can't do it if you have like the mobile page of Underdog. I don't know if that made sense, but it is a Fandango if you want to upload rankings on your phone. Yes, good season to be stuck in the back. Yeah, who aims? I'm not complaining about drafting from the back, but again, I've really tried to like manage my exposure, so it's just kind of like the 1 year I'm like not doing massive player takes. I'm like being forced into some stands here. I really like McBride. Tempted to take him with Jefferson, although I don't have as much T. Higgins as I'd like, so I probably would take Higgins. Higgins also enables me to potentially push Burrow, because B. Miller is going to be the guy with Jamar Chase, so I don't have to worry about someone taking a stacked Burrow ahead of me. Excuse me. So we'll see what B. Miller does. So he takes MHJ, so he gets the Arizona Cincy stack, which is nice. And again, doubling up. I do like the all right. I'm gonna take I'll take Josh Jacobs this time. Last time I did 3 receivers in a row. This time I will take Jacobs there. But that's going back to say, I really do like the Chase Brown, Jamar Chase start. If you're going to make a bet on the Bengals, I think you're going to see Jamar Chase, T. Higgins far more frequently. So, again, if you're trying to bet on that offense, that's a good way to get slightly different. But planning in advance, I'm going to try to push Burrow. If he takes Burrow, that's fine. I'm not like too upset by that. I just don't like getting Burrow in round 4 or 5, knowing how many teams have been able to get him at the 6-7 turn. And again, I don't think you're cooked if you take him here, but just for my money, that I think I just don't think you're getting in as good, and you're going to be a little thinner in the playoff weeks. Going from JJ as your number 1, playing in a dome, to Seattle and not Justin Jefferson, just saying they have a hard first games. Milrow doesn't start the year, but there's a world where they are. Yeah, it is going to be it's going to be difficult. Again, like Darnold, it is just so hard to know what you're getting with Darnold. Like I really don't even know how to evaluate the guy. It was such a shame, because like if he sprains his toe before the playoffs, he probably has like an $150 million 3-year deal somewhere. Like, and instead he just looked so bad that when everyone was watching that like his career was like, oh my God, he's going to make it. He's come around the corner to like, oh no, like this is ugly. I just feel I feel for him, because he just cost himself so much. Yeah. Timid 1387. I hope that was helpful in how to get the rankings uploaded. I think Jefferson over Saquon at 102, clearly back to that 2-3 turn discussion. Yeah, certainly opinions vary on that point. And you do see Jefferson go at two quite a bit, but again, I just don't want to end up with no Saquon, and that's where he goes. Like it is unfortunately that simple for me. I'm not huge on Courtland Sutton, but I also, again, just smoothing out exposures. I'm fine just taking him here. I'm pretty agnostic as to these other guys in this range. I could potentially, if Miller doesn't take Harvey, take RJ Harvey and then build a bet on Denver, which I don't do too often. I guess I'll do that. I guess I will do that. Let's take RJ Harvey. Again, in a vacuum, I think I prefer Mixon and Hubbard a little more over Harvey, but I'm okay making this kind of big bet on offenses that I like. Not shocking to see Miller take Burrow. There was no chance that Burrow was going to come back to him. And when you take two Bengals like this, if you do miss out on Burrow, then you're going to be scrambling a bit. Maybe he could have waited for Kyler. I wouldn't have hated that. Kyler, it's kind of a gamble. Will he be there at 96 or not? The Trey McBride drafter, ultimately took Jalen Hurts, so there's a pretty good chance he doesn't take Kyler, but obviously B. Miller would not have known that at the time. Looking at the board, I'm not seeing anybody doing anything too out of the ordinary. Daniels and McLaurin do end up stacked, which is something you're able to get now that you couldn't in the big board. I like that for the McLaurin drafter. Our 2 and 5 at the bye and move on to the rookie. See what we can do. Yeah, again, it is Milrose is such an interesting discussion because it's probably either gonna be a stone zero or like, oh man, I wish I had, it's the playoffs and oh, I feel good because I have two good quarterbacks, but I also have like a Jalen Milroe, dart in there. That's going to be like less owned. You also have people pulling up Jefferson at 2, so you can't get him at ADP. Yeah, Jefferson. Yeah, every time I have the third pick, like Jefferson goes at the 2. I'll stay for the whole slow draft only. Yeah, it's actually, we're going to transition this to the Truman Show. You're just going to watch me like live my life and then like click a draft pick every 8 hours. I hope you all are ready. Yeah, makes sense for different contests, different ranking. Yeah, like completely different player IDs in their system. So you can't just upload one to the other. ATX Bearcat GM. That was we were in that eliminator with Herzig, and that felt, I don't know, the team I ended with in that one, I don't know if you remember, that draft was pretty grim. I'm switching back and forth from the rankings I used during draft, so time consuming. Yeah, no, that's a tough way to live, and I don't want that for any of you guys. Yeah, you can upload them even if you have to do the phone Fandango. That will be better for your sanity there. So we've got Jacobs, Harvey, Jefferson, Higgins, and Sutton, and we're going to add somebody to this mix. Really, really not big on Jerry Jeudy. No like tight ends, no reason to take Mahomes here. I'm just going to take Jeudy. Again, this is a very uninspiring way to draft, just taking by ADP. But I'm fairly agnostic to a lot of these guys. I think if I take Jeudy, maybe we do Jeudy Judkins and hope that the Cleveland is better than we think. Myers makes a little bit of sense because it would open up Geno, but I think I'd rather take a running back here. So I'm going to do that. I know I took Judkins last draft, but adding a little Judkins, Jeudy. If Cleveland is bad enough to where they're behind to get into some good game scripts, but are competent enough to move the ball, we'll see. In the playoffs, they play at Chicago and then at home to Buffalo and Pittsburgh. That's a pretty brutal playoff schedule. So again, I am not targeting a lot of Cleveland, but games that look bad now might not be bad. 2 years ago, the Jets played Cleveland, and that game was an absolute shootout, but it was one that, before the season started, it's like, oh yeah, let's avoid that game. It's outdoors in Cleveland. The Jets have an elite defense, and it was like, it was a game you needed in the playoffs. So, I don't want to completely fade games because of projecting something 17 weeks in advance, but I certainly don't want to have overweight stances on some of them. I have very little Justin Jefferson because I'm a Saquon slappy, but I also think Saquon has a clear path to be the wide receiver number 1. I'm not so sure Justin Jefferson can be. I think I wouldn't be shocked if Jefferson was the 101. he is, I would say he's probably the most talented receiver in the league, but he's, we like JJ McCarthy. It's a little more of a mystery box, but we know what we're getting with Burrow. I don't know. I'm trying to just get at ADP on both of them. That's not where I want to be making my stands personally. I think people should play how they want. You don't want to like end up with players you're out on. But for me, that's one where I'm just going to kind of let the market dictate where I'm at. Stuck in the back and Superflex is a problem. Yeah, Who Hames, I did 2 this morning, and one where I was at the back. People seemed to not know it was Superflex, and I had like 3 quarterbacks I was happy with. And then the next one, by the time I was at the turn the second time, it was like Jackson Dart. Like there was nobody who was starting day one was available. It was so grim. So it seems like it's a little room dependent until the ADPs sort out. Just pay to play with the overlay and don't have to think any of this stuff. No, Greg, first of all, thank you for stopping by. I probably do. I do need the overlay. I feel like I say that every time I come on, and I have not gotten it yet. But I think I do think it is about that time for me to invest in the overlay. If nothing else, then I think it's going to help keep my exposures even. Like I was above 20% Travion Henderson, and that's just because I just like click him. I'm not high or low on him. I don't really know why that was as high as it was, but that's just how she's gone. I probably should take Bo Nix. At tight end, Jonnu makes a lot of sense. I think in a vacuum, I prefer Jonnu to Travis Kelce. If I want to get week 17, Denver is playing Kansas City. So maybe we'll take Travis Kelce here. I have to think that this guy will take Kyler because he has MHJ. I don't know why he would take Bo Nix. If I gambled, then I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so he does take Kyler. There is some sanity in this world, and I will take Bo Nix. So we've got Bo Nix, Josh Jacobs, RJ Harvey, and Quinshon Judkins. Wide receiver room of Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Cortland Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy. And Travis Kelce holding it down at tight end. I like this team. We're building something. We're building something intentional. It makes sense. And yeah, so far, so good. The slow draft stream would be cool for sure. Yeah, it'd be something a little different. I mean, again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it every day for the next couple of weeks after this. After that, I'm pretty much locked in until the season starts. So I do want to keep up this rhythm because I do enjoy doing this with you all so much. But I have had a long planned trip. Yes. Awesome. I'm glad we're able to do it. Taking the RB at 102, 103, or almost 104 almost forces you into 0 wide receiver through 2. Yeah, Who Hames, I agree with this. It's so hard for me to pass on Bucky or JT in that range in order to take like Higgins or MHJ. I feel like, in that range, this Higgins, MHJ, that next round 3, Wilson, Hill, JSN, McLaurin, those guys, that's a very flat tier to me versus running back where after JT, Bucky, Chase, and Jacobs, it starts getting a lot more questionable. So I pretty much agree with you there. I'm doing a lot more 2 running back starts, and that's pretty much by virtue of ending up with Saquon or Bijan, and then in a spot where I feel like I'm sacrificing a whole lot just to take a wide receiver. Do it a few times, just like any other draft too. Also want to cover both scenarios and force myself to draft different styles of rosters. Yeah, absolutely. I try to vary my structures. It's something I've focused on. I don't know how the season will play out, and I don't draft like I do. I'd rather just cover as many scenarios. That's fair, but I also think it is important to draft like you're right? Like if you do, take a player or position early, like you just got to assume that you've hit a home run there, and draft accordingly. It can be tempting to try to cover too many bases in an individual draft, and that I think can get you into potentially a little bit of trouble. This could end up being yet another. Nope, Kyle Williams goes. So I think for me, I'd like another receiver. To me, that's Betch. I like Betch more than Hollywood. I know I have that game stack going. Betch opens up a possibility for Geno. I think it's a little too early to take McCarthy. I'd like to try to push McCarthy. I may live to regret that. Tootin makes a certain amount of sense. Najee Harris is a guy that is potentially a little bit undervalued. I think I'm going to go Najee here. I know we all don't want it to be true, but there's a pretty good chance Najee Harris is a lot more involved than we want. I love Omari and Hampton. I take plenty of Hampton, but Najee is not going to not play, and don't know how that backfield's going to be split out. There's a world where Najee's starting in week 1, and then by week 17, it's, he's kind of just a change of pace back. Could be 50-50 all year. Najee could be the goal line. We just don't know, but we do know that the Chargers want to run the ball a lot. So I'll add in Najee there. He's not a guy I want to be completely. He's a guy I kind of want to be at market for. Again, potentially could have taken Hollywood Brown, but I think once I'm at 5 receivers here, we're going to see what we can get with. We might have to late stack we might have to do a little bit of a back stacking on quarterback, and also want to leave room for like Pat Bryant's or Jalen Naylor, Ty Felton types for our quarterbacks. So let's pull back up the draft board. All right. Oops. Boy, I lost my thing. Yes, ATX Bearcat, your first eliminator. Me and Herzig back to back with the same ranks. Yeah, it's a bad. I love drafting with, like, if I see like Herzig in the room, because I'm just gonna take note of what he does. Like it is good to be in those rooms and learn from people, but it's also a little bit like, well, I'm drafting with somebody who is extremely sharp. If I had to take a Browns QB, who would it be? Oh my God. I hate to say it. I think it'd be Dylan Gabriel, because I think Dylan Gabriel is who they wanted. And I think it is hard to imagine them actually going with Shedeur over Gabriel. I don't know if I would take one of the veterans in that boat. I think that's who the team wanted. That's who the coaching staff wanted. And they kind of got their hand forced by the owner. I don't know. My answer right now is I'm not taking any of them. But if I was in a position where I was forced to, I would. So it looks like, unfortunately, McCarthy went all the way over here. We did not get him. Not great. So let's see. We don't really have another great quarterback option at this point. I don't know if I want to do like a Penix Pitts situation. That seems pretty thin. I might take Trey Benson as part of, maybe a little bit of a bring back on T. Higgins. I'm not dying to take Penix or Tua here, but I could potentially consider that. A little bit of a tough spot. For me. I guess I'm going to just take. I'll take Dallas Goedert. This is a little bit of a fall in where I think he should be going in drafts, but this also enables me to stop at Kelsey and Goddard and give me another couple bullets, maybe make me a little more comfortable with taking an unstacked quarterback and then building out a back stack. This definitely makes Geno Smith a priority if he does not come around. And he's at 160. I think he's like exactly where I'm picking next. Yeah, 167. He goes at 168. So if Geno goes, then we've got real problems here. And then we are really all in on Bo Nix. But like Tua going to this guy is bad for us. We did not need Brazen to take a third quarterback. That's going to close up like another option for us. But we will see. Quarterbacks are going. I don't think we're gonna get Geno here, guys. I don't think we're gonna get 0, but we will see. I just got Bijan Gibbs in the 12 spot on Superflex. Nice. Yeah, and PPR Tyler was making the point. A fun thing about Superflex is that you can get combos you can't get in this that are just fun. Like, it's fun to have Bijan Gibbs, and you can like root for that pairing. You can't get that in this format. So Superflex, I do love that they opened it up. I'm gonna do some Superflex, but I don't know. Just get the overlay comp like Davis. I know, like I'll put a banner. I'll put a banner and a promo code, and what are we waiting for? Best Ball overlay. Let's make this happen. Lutz GM, thank you so much for coming by. Gretsch did that last year because he lived in a state he couldn't do draft. Yeah, and those were great streams. I really enjoyed that. I was hesitant to even sound like I'm trying to compare myself to Gretsch, who was a legend. But yeah, he did do that last year, and that was cool. So hopefully we can do something similar here. So in the ideal world, Cam Ward will, Geno Smith will be here. It's a bit of a fall on Jalen Knoll. He'd be an interesting pick. I think we're going to leave Mike Gesicki as a nice gift to our friend B. Miller. And I will just add Geno to the team. I think I will take one of Stafford Ward because I'm going to stop at 2 tight ends. And I do, I'm not necessarily super comfortable with just Nix and Geno as my starters, although Pat Bryant is tempting. I think this team needs another quarterback more than it needs Bryant. So I am going to take the shot on Cam Ward here. Again, Pat Bryant would be a good pick, but we did start with Jefferson, Higgins, and Sutton, who were a little more reliant on. That's kind of an interesting inflection point in this draft. But, at this point, we would be debating if we should take Jalen Milroe. Maybe if I'd taken a slightly more elite QB than Nix, I would have been more inclined to take Bryant. Interesting if I am open to y'all's opinion on what you would have done there, or if I was just too tunnel visioned into taking a third QB. Not keep flexing on them. Chad, the ability to internalize these matchup process and make a decision before your next pick should be the goal. Yeah, I come from like Liam, I come from a chess background. I used to play a ton of speed chess. And so I do like these drafts because it is a similar part of the brain where you're making these quick decisions. But, having that information at my fingertips might enable me to think about other things quickly versus just trying to conjure up who's playing each other in the playoff rounds. Crander, welcome. Thank you for coming by. Skeletor, Browns fan, easy Gabriel, but I am drafting none. Yeah, maybe I should have done Dylan Gabriel. That would have been an interesting 18th round click and probably pretty much unowned in this schnauzer. JT Best Ball got Barkley, Gibbs at 10 in his super flex. Yeah, there's again, I think as PPR Tyler noted, we're going to see the running backs rise and the wide receivers fall in super flex. So some of these crazy running back combinations are only going to get harder. Skeletor says, I probably just roll 2 QBs and tack on Pat Bryant. I think Nix is kind of elite. Yeah, again, that's totally fair. And I was pretty 50-50. No one likes backstacks like Chad Candles. Well, maybe Emo Cowboy. If anyone that could be said about, I think it's probably pretty close. Nix is better as single stack, plus you have Harvey as well. Thank you, Ann. Thank you. This is why we keep you around. No, I do appreciate that. I think it is an interesting point of debate there. Is this a disgusting Tyler Lockett pick? I'm kind of afraid it is. I could potentially even do Lockett and Chig. I know I said I was going to stop at 2 tight ends, but that was before Cam Ward. I will take Lockett here. I didn't take a lot of Lockett early on. I think there's a chance he's kind of a big ol' zero, but my running back room with Jacobs, Harvey, Judkins, and Harris, I think I can stop at 5 running backs here and feel pretty good about it. So I am going to take Chig and actually end up with a little more of this this bet on the Titans than I was originally planning to. There's also a chance that Travis Kelce comes on a little slowly, and then, Goddard is so hit or miss that I don't mind adding this late Chig. I mean, to be honest, like, how different is Chig from some of these late round receivers in this range? I don't know. If he's more involved, then I don't mind that ad, and then we will close this team out with one more wide receiver. I'm on my 15th super flexes. Who Hames? Nice. I think I've done 5 or 6. And again, I'm kind of just learning how they are. I might just fire up a super flex next if people are interested, and then you guys can scoop my EVGM. This is fine. Play me in chess. Big fan of Blitz. Well, I'm Chad Candles on chess.com. I am currently rated like 2060, I think. I'm chasing Chess Liam. I know he's better than me, but I do want to play him one day because I think it would at least be competitive. I could give him a game, but I think he'd be like a minus 400 favorite if we were to play. But I wouldn't be completely dead in the water. And on the right day, maybe I could clip him. But no, he is definitely the best chess player in best ball, and I'm fighting for that number 2 spot. Are you in on the Titans rookie receivers? I'm like weirdly feel like Restrepo is going to be fine late in the year. I know that sounds crazy, but I just have this like hunch. He's a UDFA, so he might like not make the team. I'm not really drafting many of them. I maybe trying to get to like 2 to 3%. Io Menor, I was excited about him pre-draft, but him falling just suggests that the league is a little less enamored with him than maybe I was. I just want to see. I don't think there's any. I don't want to do like Troy Franklin. I could do Thornton and get one more guy with Geno, but I think Betch is plenty, and maybe I'll just take like an Isaac Tesla type. If Tesla goes, then figure something else out. But Tesla at least gives me a fig leaf of a Week 17 stack. With Justin Jefferson. So I'll take Isaac Tesla and wrap up the team. So we get Nix, Stafford, and Ward, Josh Jacobs, RJ Harvey, Judkins, Najee, and Trey Benson at running back. Wide receiver room of Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Jack Betch, Tyler Lockett, and Isaac Tesla. And Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, and Chig at tight end. Don't mind this team. Not the worst team I've ever drafted. Not the best team, but I think it's well constructed, and you never know. Sometimes the teams that don't look incredible now are going to look really great later. So let's see. All right, I'm going to hop into a super flex puppy. I'm just going to click it, and so I know there's a delay. I'm going to try to do a 30-second. I'm going to try to do a 30-second because let's see. And hopefully, waiting for one. All right. Well, if anyone wants to hop in, I hope they were able to. The 20-second is very hard for me in a format I'm unfamiliar with. So I don't know if anyone got in. I was hoping to be able to draft with some of you. I almost left, but then I'm like, if you jump in and I rugged you, I would feel even worse. At least now, if you're in the overflow and you want to bail on a 30-second puppy, then I don't feel quite as bad. Skeletor, I'm not sure what you mean there. I'm sorry. I'm now I feel like I don't know ball because I'm not sure what you're talking about. PPR Tyler on the bid on X saying BBM 8, but super flex coming soon. Yeah, that's what we need. We need someone to win $2 million playing super flex. Yeah, I was pretty good as a kid, and now I just play blitz on online when I can. I'd be stoked to watch y'all play. I know that's it. I got to get big enough in best ball to get Liam's attention because I don't think I don't think Liam knows who I am. So I just can keep sending him challenges, and he'll be like, who is this guy? Like, leave me alone. 2000 rating is legit. Yeah, I don't know what I'd be in like a true like US chess rating these days. I don't think I would be 2000. I think if I were to be rated on like US chess, like I'd probably be like 1700 or something. I think the online inflates it a little bit. And I've always been better at blitz than regular. You give somebody 30 minutes to think and me 30 minutes to think, and good chance I come up with the same move I came up with in 10 seconds that I did in 30 minutes. But blitz chess is kind of my game. Yeah, 2000 rating, pretty good. I would not beat Liam. I don't think I would. Again, if we played 10 times, and if you took out the draws, 10 games to results, I think he'd probably win 8, and maybe I'd take 2. That would be my guess. Realistically, Liam is legit. Liam is pretty legit. I'd be kind of in on Restrepo too. Feels like he could be Ward's go-to guy with the connection they have. Yeah, I'm afraid that we're drawing the Troy Franklin corollary, but I feel like that too. And there was some buzz in the rookie camps. The Tennessee ran an article about Restrepo and their connection. Like, it's not made up. Like, that kind of stuff can be real. So yeah, I think there's a chance he's live, but again, I'm not taking him in BBM. I would take him in like a pug or the time box stuff where we don't know. And then you might eat a 0, but you also might have a guy at like supremely low ownership. You could always pull a Huhames and enter a 20-second and tell everyone you went 30. Oh no. Yeah, that's the ultimate classic Huhames move. Yeah. At least I didn't do that. I was hoping to draft this with some more of you all. So I appreciate y'all hanging on. The Titans rookie receiver they took in the 3rd. I forgot they took another receiver in the 3rd. I got to be completely honest with you. Shamir Dyke. All right. Yes, I vaguely remember this. I just focused so much on the Io Minor and Restrepo, and I was not in on old Shamir before the draft, so I definitely missed out on that. No, I have not taken him, and I am embarrassed to admit that I forgot he was even an option on the Titans. I love pushing QBs in these super flex drafts until round 4. This is fine. I didn't do that. I took 2 QBs like a fish. I have Kyler and Burrow because I could not resist. And so, again, I did not claim to be an expert in Superflex drafts. What I do like is that just this purple, like, my God, pull up the draft board. Everybody just so thirsty for QBs. Yeah, I almost took Gene T. I'm actually surprised he's fallen this far, but I was so burned last time by getting buried at QBs. Hartman at the 11. Nice. I always forget your name, so I need to like have a sticky note of everybody's handles, because not everybody has the same thing. You thought I was trying to bait you. Yeah, like I thought you were like, oh yeah, DN is this great player, and I'm like gonna walk right into it, or Joe or something. I'm not falling for that one. Yeah, sorry. I was on YouTube Chat Guard, and it's DK, like DraftKings. That makes me a little more bullish because it worked for DK Metcalf. I was calling yes, yeah. That's unfortunate. Yeah. My big board prep, see, that did me wrong, because I get, like, if I didn't even consider a guy in the big board, then it's like they don't exist. And, you end up with guys like Pat Bryant was the guy I wasn't taking, but now I'm woke to him. At least I probably had like 3 or 4 shares of him in all the pre-draft stuff, but at least I was aware of him. Grimace Room. Oh yeah, all the purple. Yes. Anytime you can make a McDonald's kids club shout, you gotta do it. I don't think anyone's going live at 10 today, by the way. I think I checked and no one was. So this likely will be my last draft because I got to run. But I really appreciate everyone who's coming by. If you haven't subbed, please do. We're so close to 100. We are almost there, and it would really mean a ton. And I'm excited to keep on doing these drafts. And if you like the video, all the better. And now I am up, and I guess I'll just take A-Chain, right? Like I'm supposed to take running backs and quarterbacks here. So why don't we take Devon A-Chain? What could go wrong? This is too easy, guys. Take quarterbacks and running backs and then win all the money. Off we go. I started one JJ, CMC, and JT and still got 3 starting QBs and Cousins. I think this is fine. Those days are numbered. I am afraid that the ADPs are going to keep getting efficient. And, remember we all had that gold rush into BBM trying to get the early ADP value. And then it turned out it was just all of us sickos trying to get it. I think the super flexer actually is that early value. Like these early teams, you're not going to be able to build later. So, I think this is a contest. Hames, I think you said you had 15 or 20 drafts in. That's smart. I think jamming in these early drafts are going to give you an edge because it does seem like the rooms are going to get sharper, and it's going to be harder to get QBs that aren't zeros like later on in this contest. Hartman, I do like what you were able to do with these 2 backs and then 2 good starting QBs there. Let's take Chase Brown, continuing the running back thing and getting a mini stack with. I'm not up. Baron Mooney is. I don't know why I thought I was up. I am seeing things. All right, so he takes T-Law. I will, in fact, take Chase Brown here. So got Burrow, Kyler, A-Chain, and Chase Brown. Cannot complain about that. I guess the question of one thing I don't necessarily always understand in Superflex is when to take that third quarterback. Is it worth taking that player who's not going to hit your roster most of the time, like in the 5th or 6th round, or do you try to push that and hope you get like a Milrow or a Dart or a Show, like one of those kind of guys? I that is kind of where I have been struggling and could use some guidance, because it is, to me, I think one of the more important decisions to make in these Superflex, but also not one I have a like great deal of comfort in making. Sub it up. This candle won't burn out. No, this is shining brightly, but is going strong for all the people this morning. This is why I've done 15. Yeah, exactly. The ADP is shifting rapidly. I know. And we're, as they say, we're all looking for the guy who did this. We are all looking for the guy who did this. Hames has 40% Milrow holding out to round 15. Wow. Yeah. The one I did earlier today, he went in like the 11th. Like people were just massively thirsty. Someone in one of my rooms saying draft QB until 19. Yeah, I did one last night, and their last 5 picks were QBs. So I don't know if they were like some kind of like giga brain trying something, or they literally didn't know they were in like a super flex draft. And none of those were projected week 1 starters that they got. But maybe that's their like crazy plan to just like survive and then get some late QBs. I don't know. It doesn't seem optimal. But they were out there. Hames, I personally go with draft capital approach. If I take one in the second, I wait a while. If I take non-QB in the first rounds, I normally hit 3 by round 5 or 6. Makes sense. Let's see. Where am I on the board? The people after me kind of need QBs. So I am almost inclined to take a third QB, and then I can kind of shut it down. Maybe I take Tua, and now I feel like at least if I don't get another QB I'm excited about. Again, it's a tough spot. There's some really, elite receivers on the board. There's a couple good running backs. Did I just lose the draft? I don't know. I really don't know. I wonder how many people know you only start 2 wide receivers. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And that's got to be the biggest difference. And that, again, that pushes us more into like BRE thinking, where wide receiver is so much more important because you only have to start 2 wide receivers versus potentially starting 3 or even 4 running backs, depending on how depending on how your week shakes out. So I'm certainly woke to the idea of waiting on receiver. So we're seeing a lot of 3 quarterbacks. I guess a lot. There's Hartman goes 3 quarterbacks. So you've gone 3 running backs, 3 quarterbacks. We're kind of in the same boat here. So do I have any stacks that are immediately obvious? I like these receivers. I really like J-Mo. I don't know if it's fishy for me to just take him. I think I'm going to take J-Mo here and start the receiver thing. I'm so high on him. I think there's a chance he really is in that kind of elite receiver range. Maybe would have been better to take Mixon. I know tight end is less important sort of on a like per capita basis because, the scoring of that position is going to be weighted even less heavily in your ultimate like weekly roster construction than it is normally. I'm certainly though sympathetic to the idea that an elite tight end could help you separate, but that might just get buried in the onslaught of QB points each week. I found stacking hard with the ADP being all over the place. Yeah, it is. I noticed that too in my drafts, and especially if like you end up with like a Burrow where Higgins and Chase still go pretty early. Again, like with Kyler, MHJ, like if I'm still taking running backs, like he's going to be really hard to stack. So it is definitely a learning process for me with Tua. I feel like there's a reasonable chance I could get Waddle with him there, but again, we will see what comes around to us, or it might even be better to just take a third running back rather than a wide receiver. The question of whether to stack or whether to keep loading up on running backs is one that I'm hopefully going to learn more and more on what's the right thing to do. But I do at least feel good with A-Chain and Chase Brown hitting my lineups most of the time. But again, like it is weird to see like DJ Moore around here at 80 when I do consider him like in a pretty elite tier of receiver. I'm going to stack all of my quarterbacks with running backs. And again, this could be really horrible. I don't know. I'm kind of trying something different. So we've got Burrow, Kyler, and Tua together with Chase Brown, Connor, and A-Chain. Is this the new meta, or is this Chad Candles with no idea what he's doing? We simply do not know. I'll pull up the draft board so people can kind of see what is going on. Cousins, half the draft is there in the 20th. Yeah, my last draft, he was gone in the 13th. Like it is wild. If you end up in a QB thirsty draft, like it is picked over. Disclaimer, I have no idea how to play this going off of Whohames and PPR, Tyler's advice. Well, see, this is good, Hartman, because now we can blame someone else when we are ultimately unsuccessful in this, and that's really what best ball is about, is finding people to blame when stuff goes sideways. Again, I like Waddle to stack, but it's very hard for me to take Waddle ahead of George Pickens, who I think is just like potentially in a drastically superior spot, and is, I think, pretty clearly the better player. All right, so he takes that temptation off. I am okay taking Waddle ahead of Metcalf when I have Tua, so I will take Waddle here. Again, not really. Laporta, I think there is some question about the tight ends. I think in this format, maybe I am going to try to push tight end to the later round. But again, I am open to changing how I draft these. I missed out on the Herbert Ladd stack with the Tua Waddle stack by one pick each last night. Yeah, the stacks are very strict. It feels just like such a mad scramble. Like, to me, the normal drafts feel very orderly. Like there's kind of a cadence and where people go. And in this, it's just like maybe it'll settle more into that when the ADP is more settled, or maybe this is just how super flex is, but this is certainly fun. It's certainly fun and it's certainly different. I hope y'all are enjoying this. God candle, dang it. I guess I blame Kevin for starting that. Hartman, today we get to hear from a real pro. Hartman asks, who is that? And Huhame says Steve Shope. Yes, Steve from Fanspeak, one of the good guys, and he knows ball. He knows so much, and I definitely, if you don't subscribe to the Fanspeak network, you should. Steve is on there with his sister Meg. They are awesome, and certainly someone to follow. And Steve, again, really is good to learn from, because he's done this for years, and I'm so glad to see him here in the best ball streets, because he is helping so many of us. Cousins is a great pick in these IMO. Yeah, I think any quarterback with a pulse who has a reasonable shot to play this year is a good pick. Steve is the man. 100% hard agree with you there. And Who Hames is excited for today, as am I. I will be tuning in there. Might max it tonight after he gives out the alpha. Yeah, I mean, I was not planning on doing a lot of these, but now I went from like I might run a few to like, oh, I'm gonna max the the puppy super flex, but we will see. All right, so there goes Hawkinson. This is tough. Maybe I take Jonnu. And if he doesn't go, and then continue to build out the Dolphins thing, maybe I'm too far behind a wide receiver. I have 2 wide receivers. That doesn't seem good, huh? All right. I think I need a wide receiver, and let's just take Jordan Addison. If he leaves me for 3 weeks for DUI, so be it. But I do not want to go to bat with absolutely no receivers there. I would have liked Jonnu, but I don't think that would be worth the potential loss. And this does feel like a fall for Addison. I don't normally see him in this range with Pearsall and Golden and Myers. So I'm fine getting that. Again, it's hard for me to judge what the heck is going on here, but hopefully it is good. Who and I will be drafting tonight on mine as well. Probably going for the 2 mil if he's down. Nice, JT Best Ball. Well, I will try to tune in for that as well. I do. If I can't make y'all's streams live, I do try to watch on replay. Again, one of the reasons I stream this early is because my evenings can get pretty hectic. So I can't promise I'll always be there live, but I do try to stop by and support. And sometimes I just have to lurk with my phone in my pocket because I cannot. I'm just going to take Cam Scatabo. I think we need another running back. Again, I'm tempted by Golden, but I have to remember that we do not need too many wide receivers, and we can start as many running backs as receivers. So I am going to, take Cam Scatabo, get my first unstacked running back. Although for the bit, no, Jackson Dart is gone. I was gonna say that'd be a pretty good bit, taking him there. But my goodness, we already see Daniel Jones is gone. Last night you could get him in the 14th round. So people are now woke to these later quarterbacks with reasonable pads to start. Yeah, there he went. There he went in the 10th to Griff. All good. I hear you. When my kids get out of school starting next week, it'll be a lot harder for me to catch the early morning lives. Yeah, I know people. It's tough, especially if you've got kids and stuff. I listen to a lot of streams where I'm just like the classic audio listener, and my phone's in my pocket and we're playing, and I just kind of have it on in the background. But that's that is where I am at right now. This super flex, I tried something, and this room likes QB, so it's not working out. Went Nico BTJ with Jaden, hoping to get a QB slide. Wasn't the room. Might try 5 total wide receivers. Yeah, that it is. And I guess that's one of the nice things about these 150 maxes is you're just gonna have those drafts that get away from you. Like we're not advancing every team. And so there's just going to be drafts that like you had a plan and it didn't work out, and that's okay. Like it's just going to happen. So I hear you. It's like, to me, it's more about the process and like having a plan and sticking to it. And there's just nothing you can do when like the tide kind of turns against you. So most of the time I wake up and you're already on, Chad, Pacific time. Yeah, no, I know. If you were, what time? If I go live at 8:30, that's 5:30 a.m. Pacific. Yeah, I don't expect to have the biggest California, Oregon, Washington following, but you know, if some people are up that early, and so if you are, then I am certainly glad to hang out with you all. I guess I'll take Cooper Kupp. I don't know. I needed a wide receiver. None of these guys are really calling to me. I don't know. We've talked a lot about Milroe on this. We've talked a lot about Milroe on this week. If Milroe comes to me, I will take him and then potentially try to build that little Seattle stack there. Could be fun. Then I feel like I could stop at those 4 quarterbacks. At least I have 3 that I'm confident in starting. Ideally, none of these guys who have 3 quarterbacks take a 4th. But I certainly wouldn't begrudge anybody for taking Milroe there. Hartman does not take Milroe. He takes Tootin. Tootin's a guy I have a lot of and do really like. Let's see if Baron Money gives that to me. Otherwise, it will just be Tyler Warren, and we can start building out a tight end room here. Baron Mooney winding the clock takes Ramondre Stevenson. So I'll just add Milroe to the team. Dirty P, you've been in most of my rooms. First of all, thank you for stopping by. Secondly, you were in the room last night with PPR Tyler and when we were drafting yesterday. So I appreciate you hanging out there. But yeah, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming by. Hartman, I don't think you sleep. Yeah, many of you all. If I see you here and then I'm like, wake up in the middle of the night and I tune into like Best Ball Guys stream and I see you there, I'm like, man, some people can stay up late. I am not the night owl that I used to be. I have way too much Tootin, but Superflex is a different exposure, so it doesn't count. Yes, it's doesn't count. It doesn't count. It's a totally different contest. We are zeroed out, and so we can get overweight on the same exact guys in this contest too. So this is a great opportunity to double down on that sort of thing. I probably do need a tight end or two, although only having it just feels so weird seeing 4-4-4 on this. And again, I just don't know if that's good or not. But at least now I can stop at QB. I don't have to make this like a 5-5-5-5 team. Like I don't think it was Gritty doing that. Maybe it was. Somebody was doing that bit in the big board and making some really god awful teams. But maybe that's what you need to win the puppy butt Superflex. So let's see. But yeah, Milroe and Kupp does give me a potential stack, although it's not hard to imagine a universe where Milroe is starting in Seattle that Cooper Kupp has been shut down because he's, the dusty veteran. So if Milroe's in and things are going sideways, maybe Kupp is not along for that ride. But you know what? We're going to be optimists. We are going to be optimists here. That's how I sleep is for the week. Yeah. That's how I felt into my mid-30s. I'm there with you, Who Hames. I used to, I used to live out on the West Coast and I would be up at like 3 a.m. West Coast time and my parents would be East Coast waking up at 6. So it was like, there was always one of me or my parents awake at a certain point in life because I was up till 3 and I don't even know why. It was just when you're young, you stay up late. I do think Dallas Goedert makes a certain amount of sense. I need a tight end here. I don't want to end up with completely frozen out. This is definitely going to be a 3 tight end team. And, maybe something to be said for taking some of these receivers before it completely goes off a cliff. But, Goddard, there's a chance Goddard is kind of an elite tight end. We used to draft him like he was, but he's fallen. So, if I'm going to take my first tight end late, I don't mind that being here. Gritty better Maxis. Yeah, this is such a gritty coded contest. And the thing about this contest that's fun is you can just try crazy structures and maybe they'll work, like as long as you don't have like quarterbacks that aren't starting. Like you could make some arguments that different stuff works. So it's certainly a bit of a sandbox. So hopefully Gritty can just let his inner Gritty run wild and enjoy this place. Used to sleep 30 minutes in the parking lot because I drove 3 hours to a poker tourney once a week. Huhames, we've lived similar lives. I have spent many a night in a casino parking lot sleeping because I'm like, I cannot drive home. I used to go to the casino, play overnight, and then like hit rush hour traffic on the way home. Like morning rush hour traffic. And it was nothing more brutal than after pulling an all-nighter sitting in traffic for an hour and a half because you were a degenerate poker player at those hours. Crazy to see a Mecca this late. Yeah, it's just such a different world here. Gritty wishes he was Gilbert. Yeah, Gilbert is I'm going to do it. Gilbert is the Charizard of Gritty's here. We'll just make that comp right away. Hurts could target Goddard with a flurry of 20-point games if he's locked into him. Goddard could get peppered. I hope so. I mean, again, like I feel like Goddard used to go in like the 70s, 80s, like 1 or 2 years ago, and that offense does not throw as much as we'd like. I think Goddard might have been a sneaky beneficiary had they banned the tush push because maybe they run a little more like play action at the goal line and tight ends in close. I feel like they can get those some of that short yardage stuff. Maybe would have added 1 or 2. Like I'm not talking any kind of big spike. But yeah, again, touchdowns can be so variable, and we've seen Goddard step up when one of Smith or Brown is injured. So I don't mind adding him here. I think that's fine. I do think I made some missteps, and I cannot believe I only have 4 wide receivers. I know we only have to start 2, but this is I'm getting really itchy here, and I'm looking at the board, and these receivers are gross. So maybe I should have taken a receiver instead of Goddard, or maybe a more elite receiver instead of Scatabo. I don't know. It's we are learning together. I would drive all night and sleep in the parking lot. If I'd done it anywhere else, would it have made it into work? Yeah, but you made it into work. That's the key. That is the key. Where should Fields be going in Superflex? Has this been addressed? Is this round 1? This is a PPR Tyler question. I don't know. In my opinion, I think Fields should be going higher in normal drafts. I don't really know why. We've all agreed he's pick 100, and that's awesome because I get a lot of him. I take a lot of Garrett Wilson, so I get that stack a ton. I guess maybe people are afraid he doesn't finish out the season, but they don't have some rookie knocking on the door who's going to take that job over. I know I've been blabbering about needing more wide receivers, but I'm just going to take Roschon Johnson because all these wide receivers stink here, and I might as well just take some really late round darts. So there you go. You cannot make me take Cedric Tillman ahead of a guy that I actually am actually excited about. Gilbert Arenas is the Tom Brady of Gritties. Yeah, he is what Gritty aspires to be. And Gilbert Arenas just doesn't care. Doesn't care. It's mid round 1, most likely round 2. I mean mid round 2 for Fields. Yeah, I mean my assumption would that be right because we're not pricing him like a elite QB. Fields 101 says Al Boogie. Al Boogie knows. Al Boogie knows that we might just be living in a now that he's been reunited with Garrett Wilson. Round 2-3 turn, but I think he will go earlier. I have frightening amounts of Fields. I don't think I have frightening. I think I have kind of normal amounts, but I do like the amounts that I have. So Alec Pierce was who I was eyeing there. That's a little unfortunate. Maybe I just take a dust ball Adam Thielen type. Again, just kind of varying. I didn't even need to vary exposures. I can take the guys I like. None of these wide receivers are really very appealing here. Fields will get pushed into round 2 and force me to skip him to pick May later. Yeah, it always stinks when guys we like get pushed up and then like we have to like back off them. Who aims? That's where I've been with him, but he's there past the 2-3 turn a lot. Yeah, I can't imagine that's where he stays. I feel like in this format, like such a spike week guy, and you don't need to rely on him when he has those inevitable like complete bust, 6-point games. Tyrod is the Jets backup. I doubt Field gets benched. Yeah, that's again, it'd be completely different. Even if they took like a second, third round rookie quarterback, like there's just not that like pressure on him. So I think he's pretty safe. That's why the early picks feel so good. Yeah, that's why Who Hames is smartly jamming these. I'm at like 50% May. Fantastic pick in I guess in all formats. Alec Pierce, spike week general. That's who I wanted. Tim in 1387, but he was denied to me. Just started Barkley, Fields, May, JT. You got Jonathan Taylor in the 4th? What are people doing? What are people doing? I don't even know why I'm going to draft these because we're getting some, super teams. Gil would do great in these super flex drafts. It was the draft. Maybe that's why they, the conspiracy, like, oh, he works for Underdog, but I think he's just like a partner. Maybe they created this contest just for Gilbert. Gilbert had so much fun drafting BBMs that he wants to do super flex. All right, I'm going to take Pat Bryant, who I should have taken last draft, and now I'm going to take him when I don't have the quarterback. Makes sense. Am I doing this wrong? I don't think so. It sounds good to me, but what do I know? I have 30% Fields in normal contests. I'm not scared. I'm terrified. Yeah, that's the other thing is his Fields could be just giga bad. I remember last year he started against the Chiefs and I used him in DFS and he literally scored like 6 fantasy points in a game where they were like trailing by 1,000. It was really incredible. And then the next week, I think he was fine. But he does have the occasional dud in him. Nope, that's where I want to be. Who Hames approves. Dirty P, you are good. You know what else went off a cliff was tight end. My God. What are we doing? You don't even have to start like a lot of tight ends, people. Just relax. I guess it's 20 rounds. We have big board brain. I'm going to take Elijah Arroyo and hope that late season it is Milroe and Arroyo. Could be good. It could be fun. Could be a 0. We will find out together. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah. JT is a 4th. Is a real thing. I have Bijan, CMC, Taylor, May team. Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that sounds, again, when you don't have to start 3 receivers, that sounds great. First time stopping by, but I really, really like your energy. Dirty P, thank you for coming by. If you haven't subbed, I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you as a sub here. But again, thanks so much for coming by and for drafting. It's been fun having you in these rooms and certainly a memorable name. And so I definitely remember you from last night. FK Cooler's tight end seems a very trivial punt to me in this format. Yeah, again, that makes sense to me because when you add in a QB score, then like the percentage of points coming from your tight end is just going to be that much lower. And it also feels like it makes the other flex spots even less likely to come from a tight end. So I agree. Just the kind of vibesy take I have is that tight end is less valuable unless you get just like a monster spike week, but just like one spike from your tight end might not even be enough to separate. It feels like you can make that up with a second quarterback or something. I don't know. I have to think about that more, but that's kind of my thought as well. FK Cooler is mostly doing 2 tight end builds. 2 Hams. I'm sorry I took 3, but I think when you start this late, it maybe it makes sense. Might tack on a late rookie bring back or something as a 3rd tight end, but rare. Well, I tacked on a rookie bring back. So there we go. Dirty P, go see a urologist, says Al Boogie. Al Boogie, our resident medical advisor here. And anyone who has Boogie in the name, we know are the true bastion of health. We should be taking advice. We should be taking advice from them. Diami Brown and Tutu Atwell are people I've heard of, so I think they might make sense. I have 2 more picks, so I think I'm going to go one more wide receiver, and then one of these just super late running backs. And I have a really disgusting super late running back that I will be taking. Hopefully I get one of these 2. Okay. I like Diami Brown. He's actually been getting some really good coach speak. And I think he's going to be, the 3rd receiver in Jacksonville. How valuable that is unclear, but he has been able to spike before. And so I don't mind adding him to this Liam Cohen, being part of this Liam Cohen offense that we're all excited about. I do not mind inviting him in here. Where do you guys stand on the 3 QB versus 4 QB builds? This is directed towards Who Hames, because he is much more of an expert on this than me. My vibesy take is like 3 QBs who start and then maybe one more dart. That's kind of just what the content I've consumed has been doing, but I don't know if that's actually optimal. I just wanted to run this because it would be fun here. Chiefing up a Hurts, Purdy, Derrick Henry, Jacobs, Hurts, yeah, there you go. I would love that start. That seems good. All right, if I ever get Snipe Boogie, I'm telling you, get wiped boogs. Yeah, you gotta have a catchphrase. And so that would be, I want 4 QBs in most of these. Says this is fine. We're doing it. We are going Damian Martinez. We are saying things in Seattle go so far south that it's all the rookies and the kids. And so we've got Milroe, and we've got Arroyo, and we now have Damian, probably a 0, Martinez. Could be bad, but you know what? If they move one of those wide receivers, Damian Martinez is going to be drafted one of those running backs. He's going to be drafted in every single contest. And I don't think that's like the most outlandish possibility. There have been grumblings about one of those running backs on the move. So again, I don't recommend you take Damian Martinez often if you do have some reason for it. But in this 20-round draft where I'm building some kind of weird late Seahawks thing, I don't mind taking a shot. So, all right, I will go over my team. I will go over Hartman's team, and then that will probably wrap it up here. So we've got QB, we've got Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Tua, and Jalen Milroe. Running back room of A-Chain, Brown, Connor, Scatabo, Roshan, and Damian Martinez. So kind of weird, stacked our first 3 running backs with our quarterbacks. Wide receiver room of J-Mo, Waddle, Jordan Addison, Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen, Pat Bryant, and Diami Brown. So pretty thin, but really just counting on J-Mo and Waddle getting there. In tight ends of Goddard, Strange, and Arroyo. Now let's see, Hartman, you took Herbert, May, and Warren. So 3 quarterbacks with stable jobs. Bijan, CMC, Hampton, Pollard, Brian Robinson Jr., Tootin, and Chubb. I really like your running back room there. I don't take a lot of Chubb, but maybe I should it randomly does this. I should maybe think about sprinkling him in, because when he signs, he'll probably become draftable. Ridley, Pearsall, Trey Harris, Egbuka, Demario Douglas, A.D. Mitchell, and Wicks wide receiver room. So a pretty young wide receiver room for you, but like certainly a lot of upside. I'd like to think you could get at least 2 starting caliber receivers out of this every week. So I like that. And then Pitts, Henry, and Gesicki. So you stuck to the plan of late tight end, but took 3 guys again with steady jobs. So Hartman, I think you cooked. I like your team. All right. Let's see what people are saying. So yes, the answer is Hartman. You did cook at FK Coolers. Mostly draft capital stuff. You can boxed 5 might be okay, or taking 3 backups. Yep. Yeah. I think you are searching for starters. Sounds like that makes sense. I may have a share of D-Mart on Bryce teams. Love it. Who Hames. So it could be a guy we need. It could be a guy. Please move. I have so much in big board. Yeah, me too. I think I have like 24, 25% in big board. Not great. Yeah, many such cases, Who Hames. Many such cases. Whenever I hear Damian Martinez, I think of Who Hames. Yeah, I was taking so much of him. I really thought that he was going to be the goal line back somewhere, not like the third string back in Seattle. It's pretty disappointing. Please trade Kirk already. 30% bags are in. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't have any Kirk Cousins like in any format, but I'm sure I will, if I do max this contest, end up with someone. Hartman, the brand is strong. Who Hames, I will tell you this short anecdote, and then I'm going to get out. I last year in the big board was the Aeneas Smith truther. I thought that Aeneas Smith was going to be really good, and then he went to the Eagles, which is the worst spot for a wide receiver 3 because they simply do not throw to their third receiver. And then in training camp, nobody talked about him. You couldn't find any news. And finally, one beat reporter was basically quoted as saying that Aeneas Smith was the worst wide receiver anyone had ever seen. And I was the Aeneas Smith guy. And first of all, his name's Aeneas, which is really unfortunate. And secondly, he stunk. So at least Damian Martinez, you can kind of blame on landing spot if it doesn't work out. But being the Aeneas Smith guy, not where you want to be. Not where you want to be. But everybody, thank you so much. If you have not liked and subscribed, I would truly appreciate it. It helps me out. It helps me keep this going. And yeah, I will see you all again soon. Thanks all for coming by. Take care, everyone.